Welcome. What is up? Welcome to the Mixer. I'm joined by my co-host here, Jeff. Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good. My Yankees are up 1-0 on the Rays in the playoffs, so
Yeah.
good start to round two.
Also, honorary members of Slam Diego now that Stanton went yard in the ninth, right?
Yeah, you like that? Also, Ursula in round one. Ursula hit a grand slam to put us ahead against the Indians, I believe.
The long ball, the loaded long ball is in fashion, and hopefully the Padres get one of their own. Maybe even tonight. We will see. Of course, the MLB is going to be part of the discussion today. We're repping my Padres gear. I got some Bengals apparel. I almost busted out since Joe Burrow got his first win, which we'll also talk about. But Padres unfortunately don't play too many playoff games. Let's hope they become more common. Anyway, so I felt like I had a rep today, especially going up against the Dodgers. Anywho, we are the Mixer. If you would like to follow us, you can follow us on all our social channels at FCY Mixer, pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can subscribe to the Mixer podcast on iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, and pretty much anywhere really that you find podcasts. Links are in the show notes, so look for them. Our YouTube's out there as well. If you want to see my awesome new mic stand, peep that on YouTube. Anywho, as always, we start with tilts. What is that? Okay, Yankees. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Right off the bat, it kind of rolls into my tilt. Jeff, but first, do you have any tilts this week?
Yeah, so I have one tilt. So I'm gonna jump the gun a little bit here. I know we usually do our fantasy check-in later on in the show, but this is really the only thing that's tilting me is on ESPN. I'm in, I think, 5 leagues. Okay, I think 6 if you count the one that I helped my dad with. Right.
Okay.
Every single one of them. So in, let's say, 5 out of the 6, I'm 3-1. And all these injuries are actually like low key helping me a little bit with the way my roster is set up and the way I draft. And then there's one league that I'm 1-3 in, and it's the league that this show is named after. And it's the one we're in a group chat with everyone with, and it really it tilts me a little bit because, like I can't do anything right. Week 1, I'm my second and like third round picks were out week 1. Week 2, I lost my first round pick for the year. This week, I lose my starting quarterback the day before he's supposed to play in Cam. And I lose him for probably 3 games based on what I understand of the protocols, that he's out for 14 days or something like that. And based on the timeline, I find it hard that he comes back before that 3rd game. So yeah, it's just really frustrating because it's like I'm crushing a few other leagues, and then in the one that I deal with the people on a daily basis, pretty much, I'm getting my butt kicked. I have the lowest points scored. My team is just trash right now.
That's why they call it the only league that matters, because of those emotions that go through you. Similar boat. I am 1-3 in that league. Injuries haven't really hit me too much yet. However, 1-3 is obviously not great. I would be in the playoffs, though. I believe I'm 6th by 0.05 of a point. I would make it in over Mason right now if the season were to end right now.
There you go.
Of course, not many of you know Mason, but yeah, he's like the little brother of the league. and somewhat of a rival. I mean, we're all kind of rivals in that league, but there's definitely extra special rivalry there. So, you know, we'll check in a little bit more with fantasy football. However, just some context. Yeah, same boat, Jeff. I feel you. However, it's still early. We're only a quarter of the way into the season, so plenty of games to play. Seems like it's going to be a big waiver week.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But all right, are you tilted by anything other than fantasy football?
Yeah, yeah. So this is more. I feel like I've had to come to the defense of my allegiance to continued allegiance to the Chargers, and I've been getting chirped a little bit, and it usually happens anytime really there's news just in general with the Chargers, and it seems like since Justin Herbert's kind of breaking out and looking good, anytime I bring him up, it's brought up. You still root for the Chargers, and I've had this conversation before on this, well, on the version of what the podcast was before, and I just kind of wanted to revisit slash mention what has been brought up. So I went over to my dad's over the weekend to work on my car, and we were talking about Qualcomm and how they're gonna demo it soon, and all the times that we've been down there. And then he started reminiscing about how the city used to be different. There wasn't any of the development in North County. Mission Valley was kind of the center of San Diego. And so Padre games went on there, drag races in the parking lot, swap meet, like everything in San Diego happened there, and this is obviously before Petco kind of shifted the focus of San Diego's kind of mindset to that downtown area with like the convention center there and Petco. Right. And then you have the gas lamp, now that's kind of what you think of when you think of San Diego. But before it was Mission Valley was kind of the center. And anywho, so we started talking about that. He's no longer a Charger fan. But that got me thinking about, the team and how different it's been since they left. And then as I was leaving, he roasted me on the way out because of my tooth. I was wearing my mask the whole time. I was wearing my mask the whole time I was over there, and I was saying goodbye or whatever. And he went into the garage, and I was by the front of my car, and I took off my mask, and he saw my tooth. He's like, "Oh man," he's like, "We were talking about how things used to be in the '70s and the '80s down in Mission Valley. Guys without their shirts on. You would have fit right in with that tooth in that crowd with your long hair, your shaggy hair."
Nice.
In your messed up grill. I was like, "Oh, thanks, Dad."
It's always great.
Yeah. And I may or may not have walked around for like 4 or 5 years with my tooth like this as a child because my dad may or may not have wanted to pay the dental fee that it cost to get it repaired. So I should have told him it's nothing new. It's nothing new, this look. You remember it. I got like 3 or 4 school pictures rocking the same face.
There you go.
Anywho, so that just got me thinking more about it, and this comes up quite often. I have a conversation where people cannot believe I am still a Charger fan, and I'm not usually given the opportunity to usually the conversation ends there for whatever reason. And Jeff, you are a Yankee fan, right? And I think we've covered it before. What was your origins to becoming a Yankee fan? You said that something like they were just always on ESPN and you watched ESPN a lot, so they kind of became your team.
Yeah, pretty much. So like when I was young, my dad's a Padre fan, but my parents were separated, so I lived with my mom. And she enjoyed watching sports, but was never really like a fan of a team per se.
Yeah.
So we would watch what was on, basically, which if you know anything about how national TV games are decided, especially back, you know, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, it was the big markets and the good teams got on national TV,
Mm-hmm.
which meant the Yankees were on a lot when I was growing up. My two favorite players growing up were Griffey and A-Rod. Um, I think had they both stayed with the Mariners, I probably would have just been a Mariner fan to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But with them leaving and then the Yankees pretty much keeping the same core for like 15, 20 years, it felt like, it was just real easy to follow and stay a Yankee fan. So yeah, that's pretty much, I saw them all the time, right? Even though I lived in San Diego, I probably saw way more Yankee games than San Diego games. You know what I mean? So,
So
uh,
that's what drew you in, the fact that they were watchable.
and,
Obviously,
and
they were a pretty good team. You grew attached to the players, and they just became your team, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, most people kind of come about it the same way. Local teams are broadcast locally, so of course, people living in San Diego are going to be able to watch more they were able to watch Charger games more than any other NFL team. Locally, the Charger games are still being carried over other maybe better games. They're still in their normal time slot. There hasn't been a week yet where CBS has carried a different game. And when I've looked at the ratings, the Charger game's still doing very well, as far as the broadcast numbers are concerned versus other broadcasts. However, they are down. They're not as high as they were when the team was here, but they're still pretty high. Um, Anywho, Rivers obviously went to Indy, and so a lot of Charger fans are kind of tapering off. The team moved now. The last kind of main piece of the team, the main tie to that team, is gone. So I stand alone as a Charger fan, and I just it wasn't something that a decision to still root for the team that came easily. I took some time, thought about it, and I do not support the owners, right? And I feel like as a fan of a team, you don't really have to be 100% on board with ownership. I don't know how you feel about that, Jeff, but there are a lot of terrible owners out there, like the Washington football team, for instance, with their owner Dan Snyder, right? And then there are a bunch in other sports as well where you can kind of separate that from your allegiance to the team.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I understand not supporting the owners. I just find it really hard to root for a team. Like, in my mind, this is why like the Yankees are really like the only team I've ever truly been like, that's my team. Every
Mm-hmm.
other sport I kind of just travel around, right? I just enjoy the sports in general. Um, but I think when you pick a team to be a fan of, you're picking the owners more than anything because they're
Mm.
the ones who are there forever, right? Like they're really there until they want to
Unfortunately,
sell the team. Like,
unfortunately,
yeah, I mean, like we all watch, if you're a Charger fan, right? Like if you've been a Charger fan for the last 20 years, you're a Rivers fan most likely, right? That's
Mm.
great. And he's arguably the best quarterback in their history, depending on how you feel about Fouts, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and they just let him go, right? I think is the right call. But like players are temporary to an extent. Owners are there until they don't want to be there anymore. Um, and so I think a lot of people do that where they like the team but hate the owners. But like in reality, like no matter what, if you like a team, you're supporting the owners. Like it's
Yeah,
just how it goes.
yeah, and I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, you know, I don't I don't think there's a right answer, right? When I kind of angrily posted something about the Chargers leaving when they did, there's a friend of mine who lives up in Long Beach. He's a Ram fan,
Yeah.
and he's been a Ram fan since he was a kid when they were there in LA, and they went away to St. Louis. He remained a fan, and they came back. So he felt like he had a perspective he could share with me, and he said, "No, you got to be loyal. Like they're your team, no matter where they go." And I said, "Well, but the way it went down, I don't know if I can follow a team that had their ownership do that."
Right.
And especially since they're moving up to LA, which is extra salt in the wound. However, I kind of, went into that first season where they were in LA watching the games, not really caring about the team at all. It was just
Right.
something to watch. I watch football anyway, so I'm gonna watch it. And what brought me back officially was they played the Falcons in Atlanta, and my brother-in-law was in town, and we were at their house, and we watched the game. It was a dramatic game. The Chargers came back and won, and we were all standing up, like high-fiving, and just having a good time. And to me, that's what sports is. It's not, spoiler. Although we have a sports podcast, the sports don't really matter in the big scope of things. It's not like I'm gonna live or die if sports go away, as we've kind of seen with the pandemic. And um, it's almost like fandom is like a mechanism to connect with people. That,
Yes.
and that's kind of what I got out of it, and what kind of brought me to love the Chargers in the first place was just watching the games over at my dad's house after I graduated from high school and moved out, and when I was a kid too, and just having people over, watching the game, like having just a good time on Sundays. That's more of what it's about. It's not about even the players. To me, I mean, obviously it does help having those players that you can root for. And
Right.
it's another big plus if you have an ownership who's like doing stuff in the community and making good decisions, and representing well. But it's more of just like a mechanism to connect with family, with friends. Um, it maybe this is just a different shade of that mechanism is getting roasted and routinely having to defend my my fandom. But hopefully it'll pay off. And I'm really excited for Justin Herbert, obviously, and hopefully some people will come back as a as the as things go. If like say the Chargers had Lamar Jackson or something like that, we don't know what Justin Herbert's going to be, but Lamar Jackson or like Patrick Mahomes, just those guys that are universally excited to watch. If Justin Herbert morphs to whatever version of that he can be, I'm not saying he's going to be like a top 5 quarterback for the rest of his career, like we're probably
Right. You're just
projecting.
saying for like the next 15 years, you think he'll be a top 5 quarterback.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm really excited about him. I'm just saying, I hope a player like that along and brings people back. However, I already broke my rule that I wouldn't buy LA branded gear, but there was just this fire hat, and it says Los Angeles Chargers on the back of it. It's small script, but
So
but
you
I
already
asked,
gave in.
yeah, does that make me the baddie, Jeff? Am I the baddie?
Yeah, you're a baddie.
Damn. Damn. Well, I mean, that rule. Um, never, ever, ever buy something, do something uh, for anyone or anything unless it's hot, unless she's hot. I believe that's the Barney Stinson rule. Unless it's hot, which that hat was fire. That rule's getting broken. Anywho, that's a long tilt. But that's my tilt for this week. Let's get into talking actual NFL stuff, shall we?
I'm ready.
All right. So, Tom Brady, is he back? He went for over 300 yards, 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers, and brought the Tampa Bay Bucks back from a rather large deficit against my mega market Chargers. Did you catch any of that game, Jeff?
I actually did not catch any of that game.
But what do you think about Brady? I think he has like 11 TDs, over 300 yards. He's one of the top quarterbacks. Is this kind of a flash early season success? I mean, he may be younger than Joe Burrow, but does he have enough in the tank to take Tampa Bay to the playoffs, or even further? The NFC is pretty stacked.
I mean, an extra team gets into the playoffs this year. Brady's not to the point that like he can't make throws, obviously, right? And Tampa Bay has solid weapons. So
that they
I
do.
mean,
I said that they do.
But I think
Gronk is your blocking tight end. You got weapons. Well, now he's gonna have to receive, but
anyway. Yeah, we're talking about old Gronk though.
Yeah.
No, they just lost O.J. Howard for what seems to be the year. So I think they have enough to get to the playoffs, especially with how bad like the NFC East is, or it looks right now. How bad the Falcons look, stuff like that. But I don't think they're a top tier team. I think if they get in, they're like 5, 6, 7 seed kind of thing. Probably out in the first round. I just don't see them. I think Brady going there will make his decline seem less. If you know what I mean, like he's been kind of on
against time.
Yeah, he's been on the downswing for the last few years in New England. I think going to Tampa Bay and giving him better weapons makes it seem like he's declined less or he's bounced back a little bit, when I don't know if that's the reality. Yeah. But it probably extends his career a couple of years because he's got better weapons. He can, maybe in like 3 years he'll be at that Drew Brees stage where he's throwing the ball 5 yards down the field every time.
Jeez, that's sad. It's sad to see that happening to Drew. Tom Brady has kind of faded towards the end of the season once the weather gets colder. It's kind of weird how that seems consistent with some players. You would think that's just some, I don't know, coincidence, I guess, that players maybe not perform well in certain months, but there are certain players where that does seem consistent, and I guess it does track and make sense if Tom Brady's getting hit, wearing down a little bit, that he's going to taper towards the end of the year. So we'll see how he does for the rest of the season. Joe Burrow got his first win, and Joe Mixon looked amazing. So Houday, shout out to the Bengals getting their first win of the season. Just had to touch on that. Your Cleveland Browns are 3-1. I did not know that they were 2-1 going into this game. For some reason, I thought they were like 1-2. They destroyed the Cowboys. I mean, they let the boys come back into that game, but they were really controlling that game for the majority of it, and even with some trickery. I saw that Jarvis Landry pass to OBJ. That was something.
Did you see the even more impressive OBJ 50-yard run?
No, I did miss that. They were on at the same time as the Chargers, so I didn't get to I didn't get to catch that game as
Gotcha.
much as I normally would. The morning games, but
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think of the Browns? Do you think they can challenge for a wild card at least? I mean, they're in a tough division for sure.
So I definitely think they can challenge for a wild card. It's going to be tough though because you probably got another loss coming to Baltimore. Um, Pittsburgh's going to be a tough 2 games. They already beat Cincinnati. I imagine they'll probably beat Cincinnati again, but that's, you know, if they split against Pittsburgh, then they're what against the division 500, 3-3. If they beat Cincinnati twice, split Pittsburgh, and then lose twice to the Ravens, 3-3. It's probably tough at that point, but there's a lot of bad teams this year too. Um,
Yeah.
this was a nice win. I was telling one of my coworkers, he's from Ohio, and he said, he's a little worried about the Browns' defense, and I understand that, but you got to realize like they've played arguably 2 of the top 3 or 4 best offenses in the league so far in Baltimore and Dallas, and they split. They went 1-1, and really the Dallas one, they were, like you said, controlling the game, and it wasn't until later in the game when the game was kind of in hand that they let Dallas really like explode. Um, Dak does end up with 500 yards passing, but it's all for naught because
Hmm.
they lose. They score 38 points and lose by 11. Feel bad for Dak there. It's nice to see the Browns like kind of get going. Put up 49 points on what was not a particularly great day from Baker. Um, but they're built the way I believe the 49ers are built. Now the 49ers are, struggling a little bit because of injuries. But if you look at the 49ers last year, they were very solid offensive and defensive line wise. And could kind of control games that way. I think the Browns are very similar. I think the Ravens game to open with the Ravens week 1 was a little misleading, right? You got brand new coach, no preseason, a bunch of new faces in like key areas and stuff like that. They got
Hmm.
worked, right? But then the next 3 games, they've looked pretty solid. Um, I think they probably end up. Yeah, I think best case scenario, like 10-6.
Yeah.
Um, that would be
Be a great
ideal.
season for them.
Yeah, I think
Just getting back in the playoffs would be
huge.
great for the Browns.
Yeah, it'd be very Padres-ish this year.
Yeah, yeah, and especially with I mean, they got the brown uniforms, just like the Padres now. Anywho, who's not looking solid is any team in the NFC East. After dropping this game to the Browns, the Cowboys are 1-3. If it weren't for that miracle comeback against the Falcons, they would be 0-4. The NFC East teams are combined 3-12-1, and the Eagles are on top thanks to that low T play of going for the tie against the Bengals. They are 1-2-1. Oof, what a rough division. Do you think? Do you think there should even? This might be a dumb question. Do you even think that? Do you think there should be a requirement for teams to get in the playoffs that they at least have to have a 500 record? If they don't have a 500 record, then sorry if you won your division, but you're not invited to the party. should
Um,
they write something in like that, or is that? I've always been a fan of divisions because I don't know, it just has that kind of like regional aspect to it.
yeah,
Anyway,
see,
I don't
th-
know what your thoughts are.
this is where I differ. I've never been a fan of divisions, but with the way the schedules are, I think you almost have to have divisions, right? Because like you
Hmm.
can't, they're not playing every team twice, right? So you kind of have to, you know, regionalize it essentially. I think if you
Yeah.
regionalize it and you create divisions, I think you have to let the division winner in the playoffs, even if they're like 5-11, kind of thing. Uh, I think the NFC East. I think Dallas is definitely better than 1-3. Um, Obviously, their defense has to figure something out, but their offense is arguably the best in the league. I think the Eagles are potentially a decent team. Their defense is somewhat solid, but Carson Wentz is nowhere near the Carson Wentz of a couple of years ago, or even the Carson Wentz of last year, really. I don't know what's up with him, but he just looks really bad right now. I mean, I saw a play. I watched that game Sunday, and he had a play where Miles Sanders runs like a little angle route, basically, where he starts on the right side of Carson, basically runs out to his right, and then cuts back to the middle. And he's like, the way they set up the play and the way the 49ers defended it, Miles Sanders had probably 30 yards before someone was going to touch him, and Carson throws the ball at his feet. So if you were gonna, and he does the right thing and tries to catch it while he's running, and drops it.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, if he goes down and catches that and makes sure he catches it, then it's just like a little 5-yard gain, right?
Yeah.
If Carson hits him in the chest, it might be, who knows? It could have been a touchdown because he's probably 1-on-1 with a safety or a corner at that point,
Yeah. And so, somehow they still won that game, but I saw
Yeah.
somebody tweet that every play that the Eagles run looks like max effort. They're just gripping and struggling to get anything going, basically.
Yeah, I mean, their offensive line is beat up. Lane Johnson was in and out of that game like 4 or 5 times, it seemed like. Yeah, the Eagles are struggling right now. They have no real receivers to throw to. Even their second tight end's on IR. So
Yeah, they're only a few years from winning the Super Bowl too, and they have a majority of the same core players. I don't know how it went so bad so fast. It's like,
yeah, I mean, it went downhill once
came
they
out.
let Big Dick Nick go.
Yeah, maybe they need that energy. They need that big dick energy on this team, but maybe the rest of the league just caught up because I know they were kind of innovative with the pace of play, and obviously there's been a shift in the NFL trying to increase that, so defenses are used to it now. Who knows? As a Carson Wentz owner on my main fantasy team, I hope they can get it right. I was kind of cashing in on that fast-paced offense, and I did the same last year, and that didn't work out either. So you'd think I would have learned by now. Anywho, I mean, I like the Cowboys in that division, but we'll have to see. It's anybody's game, and those games always end up in prime time too. It's always like Cowboys, Washington football team, Eagles, Cowboys. They love putting those games in the Sunday or Monday nights. So I'm sure we'll get to see more of it.
They're all big markets, right?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of, let's just move through the rest of the NFL. So we got a few undefeated teams. The Bills are undefeated, 4-0. Seahawks 4-0. Both the Chiefs and the Packers are 4-0. The Steelers are 3-0, as are the Titans, who both got early bye weeks unexpectedly. Yep. Anybody here running the table? That's probably a very broad question, but I guess who's the best team in the NFL right now? Seahawks, Packers, Chiefs, one of those three.
Yeah,
Seahawks.
I would say Chiefs or Packers. I think the Seahawks would be a close third. Although I do think the Seahawks are potentially the best team. I just am still not a complete believer that they're going to let Russ cook all year.
That's a good point.
And if they let Russ cook, who knows? They might run the table. But I don't think they are, because that division is really tough.
Where did that phrase come from, by the way? Let Russ cook.
Twitter.
Who said that? Yeah, but who do we know the origins of that?
I mean, I'm sure we can find it, but that phrase has been around for like 7 years.
Huh. Interesting. I'm curious what the origins are.
I'll try to find it before next week.
I mean, it does have a nice flow, but it's not commonly said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like uh, bombs away for Big Ben or something. You've heard like bombs away for airing out the ball, right?
Right.
Cook, like I get it. I'm just curious. Is he a chef? Did he go on Master Chef once or something?
I
I don't
don't
know.
know about that. I'll
I
try to
just
find it.
these are things I need to know.
But
I think the cooking of Russ is coming a bit out of necessity because their defense is trash. So maybe they're going to let him. Maybe it's out of necessity. So
yeah.
it may not be so much a shift in philosophy with how to run the office. It may be something that's just out of necessity because of how poor their defense is.
Yeah.
But still early. We're only a quarter in. The Seahawks have looked the most consistent out of the undefeateds at this point. But I mean, don't sleep on the Bills. It seems like they have it going, and they probably have the best offense defense combo. They're just they're kind of younger. They have Josh Allen at the helm, a little bit less established than some of these other teams that are undefeated. So, I wouldn't count out the Bills Mafia is all I'm saying.
I get that.
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
And Berman.
Moving on. COVID. Big hits. COVID hits harder than the Bills Mafia slamming through
tables.
Costco tables. So, just to update, Titans were continuing to test positive up to as soon as Monday. No, I guess the last 2 days they haven't tested positive, I saw. So they had somebody test positive on Saturday, none on Sunday, none on Monday. Cam Newton tested positive. When did that news break? Saturday morning? Friday night? Pretty late.
I think it was Saturday morning because it was something like they were getting ready to like board the planes and they were told not to or something like that.
Yeah, it was Saturday morning because I got roasted by my dad, then checked my phone when I got in my car and I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So I mean he's gonna be out for a few weeks. It's first big outbreak for the NFL. Fortunately, the Titans' opponents, the Vikings, the week prior, nobody's tested positive on the Vikings, so it seems like it's just isolated to the Titans, that outbreak. We are entering the cooler months. We may have the first days where the highs are in the 70s here for a while this week. Everybody's been talking about the Wisconsin right now has a 20% plus positivity rate for the coronavirus, which is not good. Is this a sign of things to come, Jeff? Do you expect more outbreaks, or are they gonna wake up because of this outbreak?
I mean, I definitely expect more people to test positive. As far as like outbreaks, I don't know about that. But I definitely expect more people to miss games because of it. Especially they're not bubbled up the way the NBA is, right? So, players are still interacting, albeit I believe interactions are significantly less than normal. They do still interact with people that aren't under NFL control, right? So,
and I don't think the NFL has the logistical capabilities or wherewithal to bubble up. There's just too many players. They need too much space and too many fields. I don't see that working. And then travel would be inevitable. You can't keep these guys in the same spot just because of the number of players and staff and such. So to combat the future outbreaks, potentially, the NFL has taken measures, including a longer hold period, quarantine period. I don't know what they're referring to it as for new
Yeah.
players. So if they sign somebody, they have to wait a little while before joining the team to make sure they're testing negative.
Yeah.
They're somehow the league is going to be doing video monitoring of PPE use inside team facilities. So they're going to be making sure coaches and everybody are wearing their masks. By the way, how big of a joke is the requirement for the coaches to wear masks and them fining the coaches? It just seems like such a charade since all the players aren't. I mean, trust me. I am very much in the camp of wear your mask whenever possible. It just seems the way it's being executed in the NFL just seems so comical. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm with you. It's really kind of funny. It's, yeah, it's just one of those things that I think the NFL is just trying to look good more than anything.
Yeah, Andy Reid's got the right idea. Just dome up, and you don't got to worry about it because I see it's always the defensive line and like the special teams or the defensive coordinator and the special teams coach. They start yelling at a player and then they just pull down their mask and they start yelling and then
Of
they
course.
slip it back on. It's like, what are we doing? Like, anyway.
Also, shout out to the Chiefs being the only team in NFL history to start 4 years in a row 4-0.
Oh, good stat of the day. The NFL is also limiting free agent tryouts. They're banning off-field player gatherings, so no rookie dinners. And they're increasing disciplinary actions. What's up?
Did you see the Raiders were the first team to have players get fined or in trouble for off-field actions?
No, I had heard that there was on the locker room, but I didn't read into it.
Yeah, Derek Carr and Darren Waller. Darren Waller had like a charity event, and Derek Carr, Darren Waller, and a few other Raiders players were there without masks on most of the time, and I believe they were fined for it.
Jeez. Yeah, they need to really establish guidelines. They only had from March until the start of the season, so you can see why they're behind the 8 ball on this. But hopefully, maybe these guidelines are at least the first step into that direction. They are going to increase disciplinary actions for failure to comply, including potentially losing draft picks for the team. So maybe that'll get people to pay attention. Moving on. Let's go down. Let's go to baseball. Yeah. So the division series have kicked off. The matchups are Astros, A's, Yankees, Rays, Marlins, Braves, and Dodgers, Drays. Ooh, I like that. It flows very well. Astros won yesterday. Yankees won yesterday. They're up. Those two teams are up 1-0. Are the Astros going to make the ALCS just to troll the baseball world?
So part of me hopes so, but at the same time, like I hate the Astros these days.
Yeah.
Although the Astros are getting back on my good side because of Carlos Correa. I've always said, and I will always maintain, if you're going to go down the bad path, right? If you're going to go be a villain, then embrace it and be a villain. And the Astros, up until a few days ago, have been like, oh no, we're the victims, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what? Carlos Correa came out and said, what are you going to do about it now? And then he backed it up. And I'm like, all right, I can get with this now. So while I still don't want them to actually win anything, I'm not as much against the Astros being villains as I used to be. I'm also I love the A's and I love Billy Beane for being the Moneyball guy.
Mm-hmm.
I never want the A's to win anything in life because they get so much credit for that, and they were far from the only team to be doing that type of stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, and so like I just like I'm kind of torn there, but I would actually rather the Astros win than the A's personally.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. Steer into the turn. Embrace the villain role. Maybe they put. Maybe Breaking T makes them a T-shirt with a trash can and it says what year did they win? 2018, 2017? Did they win both those years? Anyway, put them on there and it says MVP or something. 28 MVP, 2018 MVP, and Altuve, and the rest of them just rocket. Just a huge
Why not?
middle finger to the league. However, yeah, I mean, like you said, it does feel dirty. However, the lulls that we're gonna get out of it are just great. I was rooting for an A's Padres World Series, so I hope the A's are gonna be able to pull it off. Second best jerseys in baseball. If you ask my opinion, the Kelly Green A's jerseys, I love that. Anywho, that should be a fun series to watch. We already talked Yankees Rays. Yankees are up 1-0 on the kind of the upstart Rays, so that should be a good series as well. Marlins Braves. I don't have as much opinion on this one. I mean, the Marlins were the hottest team
Well,
going.
we can just pencil the Marlins into the NLCS. They don't lose playoff series, so
Right, right. I'm sure that trend will carry on into infinity. And then we got Dodgers Drays tonight, game 1. Clevenger is going to be on the bump. Hopefully, his arm doesn't give him too much problems. Did you see celebrations after they wrapped up the series earlier
I did not. Were
or
they
late
bad?
last week? Well, I mean, the gas lamp was just, I mean, it looked like street scene down there, throwback to street scene.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm forming the bus, all but ensuring that San Diego will be back in the purple tier within 2 weeks. However, the Padres winning a playoff round doesn't happen too often. So party it up. Just mask up and be smart and stay away from the elderly. Please, 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 please.
There you go.
So this series, the Dodgers Drays, is going to be played in Arlington, Texas, the Rangers' new stadium, the birthplace of Slam Diego, where they went on that tear. So hopefully they get that little magic going again. Really, really looking forward to the series. Should be a good one. Should be a good one. Maybe the birth of or an intensifying of the rivalry between the Padres and Dodgers.
Yeah. I will
Speaking of,
say real quick, sorry to interrupt. I am pulling for the Drays, as so many people in my life are Drays fans. But I am on team get Clayton Kershaw a World Series ring. So I would not be mad if the Dodgers won.
maybe when the Padres acquire him at the trade deadline next year, he can get his ring. Him and Mookie, we'll send him Paddock.
I don't care about Mookie.
I'm going to propose a Danny trade right now. So Paddock
God.
and somehow Austin Hedges. I assume that we still have the rights for him somehow. So Paddock, Austin Hedges, and who else? Maybe we'll chip off Kirby. We'll chip off Kirby. They'll get Kirby, and then we'll get Mookie and Kershaw.
There you go.
Send finalized trade offer. Anyway, obviously that's never gonna happen. Let's talk NBA. speaking of never going to happen, are the Heat. I mean, they won Game 3. We have Game 4 coming up. What happened in Game 3, Jeff? How did the Heat get a win and make this a series? Or is it a series yet?
I mean, it's definitely a series. Like, the Lakers can't just coast their way through, obviously. But I think Game 3 was kind of a perfect storm for Miami in the sense of you got, I think what needs to be the lead, you got an all-time great Jimmy Butler game, right? Like 40-point triple-double, really just controlled the game. You had LeBron doing his normal thing. He wasn't like super great, but he had 25, like 12 and 8 or something like that. But the big thing for the Lakers was they had a lot of turnovers. They came out very sluggish and just weren't playing very well right from the start. And B, Anthony Davis got into foul trouble early with a couple like ticky-tack fouls that you don't normally see called, kind of thing. And I think, we'll know more after Game 4, but I think the Lakers are still pretty in control.
Game 4's tonight, yeah?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if the Heat are able to tie it up tonight, then, the potential's there for obviously a Game 7. We'll at least get 6 games. So we'll see. If you're neutral, I think you're rooting for the Heat tonight.
Yeah, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not worried until, obviously if you lose tonight. Then I start to get worried. Other than that, if you win tonight, I think it ends in 5. I honestly think it'll just end in 5. I think LeBron's experienced enough. He'll get them energetic and ready to go. I don't think Anthony Davis gets those early fouls like last game. And yeah, I think the Lakers go up 3-1 tonight.
Awesome. I'll try to tune in. I mean, we have the Padres going, but I should be able to get both games up. Moving on. I know everybody's been waiting eagerly for us to talk a little Formula One, right? There's no race, but we do have news. There are an engine supplier pulled out. Honda pulled out. They're not going to supply engines for the next set of regulations, which is unfortunate. So a few teams are going to be looking for a new engine supply, most notably Red Bull Racing. They had Honda engine. They might have to come crawling back to Renault. I'm not sure if you have any major thoughts on this, Jeff. But I mean, what's your reaction to the news? Are you sad as a lifelong Honda fan? You weren't a Honda fan, but I was, and I am sad.
I really don't care, other than the fact that Red Bull needs an engine.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, they will get an engine no matter what, as long as they want to stay in Formula One, because the FIA has a rule in place that one of the engine makers will have to provide an engine for a team at a certain price point. So currently, based on my understanding, that would be Renault. The way it works is it's whoever has the least partners or whatever, which is Renault at the moment, although it could be Ferrari, it could be whoever. My understanding as well is that Mercedes and Ferrari have basically said no to Red Bull in the sense of they don't want to supply a direct competitor with an engine,
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense. The other thing I saw today on Reddit, I believe, was that Horner, the Red Bull top guy, was meeting with Honda to discuss purchasing the IP for their engines. And there's a possibility Red Bull was going to start making their own engines, or another manufacturer was going to use that IP to make the engine, kind of thing.
That'd be interesting. There's always been rumors about Porsche coming into Formula One and partnering with Red Bull. So Porsche is part of the Volkswagen Group, which is massive. I mean, people who maybe don't pay attention to automobiles in general, Porsche owns. So they own Volkswagen. Well, actually, the Volkswagen Group owns Porsche, and then they also own Lamborghini. They own Audi, and some other makes that are just not coming to my mind. Porsche had a huge Le Mans program, which they pulled out of a few years ago. Same thing with Audi. You know, they had a Le Mans program of their own, very successful, and they pulled out because of Dieselgate. If you don't know what Dieselgate is, you should watch Dirty Money, I think it's called. It's a Netflix special. I believe the first episode is on Dieselgate, and it's basically an emissions scandal. And they got fined a lot of money. They were basically lying about fuel efficiency, and they weren't lying about fuel efficiency. They were lying about emissions. Anywho,
gotcha.
It was a huge thing. So I mean, Porsche might get in there. I'd love to see Toyota back. Toyota was part of Formula One in the early 2000s and late 90s. Toyota is one of my favorite teams. They have a Le Mans program, so it'd be nice to see them jump in the fray. So just a possibility, although it's, Honda's out, that might be propping up a door for maybe even a more dedicated engine supplier to come in. The more competition, the better. We need more engine suppliers in Formula One.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and then just kind of a sub note here. Teams are continuing to kind of eye IndyCar. There's been rumors about Ferrari going to IndyCar. McLaren, they actually have a team right now. It's kind of like a sponsorship deal, but an ownership group of Formula One, Liberty Media purchased shares of Meyer Shank Racing, an IndyCar team. So we might be seeing the cars, some F1 cars at Indy soon. So I mean, we're basically at time. Jeff, did you have anything else you wanted to cover, or is it time for some PF Changs?
I think it's time for some PF Changs. Let's go get some.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for your continued support, and we will see you next week. Jeff, have a good one, buddy.
You too, Rob. RC.
See ya.
See ya.